Been waiting for Dr. Miguna, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's been a while since we last spoke. You've been away from home since 2018 March, and obviously there's a lot of things that have been happening here at home, some very close to your heart, yet you've not been able to attend. Perhaps, how have you been coping now that you're away from home and everything has been happening?
Focused as ever.
Focused as ever. I didn't expect one answer. Anyway, the reason, Miguna, you are out of this country, and everyone agrees on this, since 2018 March, is because you swore in Raila Odinga as the people's president, or is it because you hold dual citizenship?
I think you just missed it. First of all, I was exiled on the 6th of February. I don't know where you get March from. March was the second.
The second time, yes.
Yes. But the question is unfortunate in the sense that this matter has been litigated to death. This matter has been in court more times than any other case in recent history, probably more than Kenyatta was in court when the British took him to court and accused him of being a Mau Mau leader. And when Kenyatta was released, I don't think Kenyans ever asked him, were you in detention because you are a terrorist? Everybody recognized the fact that the British picked him and put him in jail because the British feared the rise of Mau Mau and the end of colonialism. The same thing here. Ken, you know that I was in Kenya since I was born. You know that I went to school in Kenya. Almost all my education except for university education. And you know that I was in Kenya when some people claiming to be police officers, later on I learned, wearing civilian clothing and without knocking, bombed their way into my house and destroyed it and abducted me and detained me in Comunicado for 6 days without taking me to court in violation of the Constitution. And then when there were several court orders demanding and directing that I be taken to court, the state refused to obey the court orders and to follow the Constitution, and violated my rights by torturing me and then forcing me out of the country. So to then ask the question why the state has violated the Constitution, subverted the Constitution, and violated my rights, and refused to obey court orders, to then turn that around on me is unfortunate. Because if somebody commits a crime, so let's assume, for instance, for the sake of argument, that swearing Raila in was a crime, then what you do is you arrest someone in a civilized way. You come and arrest me, take me to court, charge me with whatever crime you have cooked up, and I'm ready to face the charges.
Okay.
They didn't do that. They could not even take me to court. So you should be asking them, if this man committed a crime, as you claim he did, why did you take him to court? And why haven't you followed or obeyed the court orders?
Okay.
Now, taking me out of the country and forcing me to go out of the country when I was born in Kenya, even though the Kenyan courts have ruled numerous times that I am a Kenyan, I never lost citizenship. Are you suggesting that all those foreigners on the streets of Nairobi and Kenya have been forced out of Kenya because they are foreigners? Okay. Even if I was. Even if I was a foreigner, are foreigners abducted at home at night, their passports are confiscated, destroyed, they are sedated, and put in planes when they are unconscious?
Okay, Daktari.
Like, that's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
And for you,
yeah.
No, let me finish.
Okay.
This is what is most unfortunate with the Kenyan media. This is what I am saying. The Kenyan media has lost its conscience, has lost completely its moral authority to speak on anything. Because instead of being completely upset with the president, the illegitimate president Uhuru Kenyatta, for disobeying court orders and for violating my rights and for subverting the constitution, you pretend like you don't know what he has done.
Okay.
You pretend that what he's doing is legitimate, and now put me in a position where I have to justify why I'm not in Kenya. But you know why I'm not.
It's not a justification, Daktari. It's not a justification I'm looking for. What I'm looking for, because you have painted this picture even of foreigners, and you ask the question if a foreigner can be bundled out of a country the way it happened to you. So my question is, there must be more than meets the eye. It's not about you not being a foreigner or being a Kenyan. Is it because of the swearing in, or it's because of dual citizenship? That was my question.
Ken, you know for a fact that I'm a Kenyan. I speak better Luo than you. You know for a fact that I have never renounced my Kenyan citizenship. So how did I lose it if I did not renounce it?
Okay.
So obviously I did not lose it. And let's assume that somebody thought I did, right? What is the mechanism of determining that question?
Okay.
It's a court of law in any civilized society, isn't it?
Yes.
The matter went to court. And how did the court rule? Not once, not twice. You yourself have said more than 15 times, isn't it? So what is the honorable thing that a government that obeys the law, that governs itself in accordance with the rule of law, would behave?
Okay.
They obey court orders. Even Moi, now let me just finish.
Yes.
Even Daniel Arap Moi, who was a dictator, and by the way, I know this media house is owned by Moi, but even Moi did not do this. Even Moi did not disobey court orders. Moi did not detain people outside the constitution, however outrageous it was.
Okay.
Because he had the power to do so. But whenever a court gave him an order, a habeas corpus order, he complied.
Okay. Daktari, well said. So the question, I'll ask my question in a different way. So why are they so determined to keep you out of the country? Why are they so determined to violate your rights?
Can fear. Why do people act the way Uhuru Kenyatta has behaved? Because of fear. Uhuru Kenyatta knows that he stole the 2017 elections. Uhuru Kenyatta knows I know this. Uhuru Kenyatta knows that I don't fear him, and I don't fear the gun. I don't fear power. I am not fearful of money. I speak the truth. I am capable of mobilizing. They know this. The intelligence have told them that. I was capable when they tortured me in 1987 and forced me into exile. That's why they did what they did then. I was capable after I swore Raila in and before then. They knew this.
Okay.
They knew I could not be compromised. Let me finish. They knew I could not be compromised like Raila was through bribery. They knew that even if Raila was bribed the way he was, and he ended up calling for an artificial peace that did not justify the deaths, did not do justice to the deaths that had been perpetrated against his supporters, I would not have agreed.
Okay.
And because they feared that I would be able to mobilize and to organize an effective resistance to their conmanship, they decided, because of fear, we get him out of the country. But that was not their first option.
Yes.
Let me tell you this.
Yes.
That was not what they wanted to do first. Their first option, what they wanted to do first when they bombed their way into my house, they wanted to abduct me in the middle of the night so that they could eliminate me, so that they could kill me. Once they failed, because I was able to notify the world as they bombed their way in, because I had been forewarned that they were coming, then they had option two. Detain him as you plan to do something else.
Okay.
Then they cooked up what you called deportation, but you know, but in law you cannot deport a citizen. You cannot deport somebody born in a country. Okay. Remember a woman called Mwende.
Mwende.
Mwende was born in the US. Do you know that? She was not born in Kenya, right? And she was appointed an ambassador. The Parliament of Kenya said, no, you can't be appointed an ambassador until you renounce your US citizenship. She refused. Where is she?
South Korea.
She's serving as an ambassador today, okay, in violation of the parliamentary resolution. Okay. So what this tells you is that you have a rogue government that does things outside the law.
Okay.
That is what is confronting us.
Okay. So the fear of Miguna. Well, I want to talk about the disobedience to court orders. 15 times the court has said you need to facilitate Miguna back to the country. In fact, it's unconditional. There's no condition set for your facilitation. But my question is this. You believe in the rule of law. You believe the court should be obeyed. And yet, you swore in Raila into office against a Supreme Court declaration that Uhuru Kenyatta was duly elected in the second election after it was petitioned by two institutions. You violated the law at that time, Miguna, because the Supreme Court had decided, as a lawyer, as an officer of the court, you are now looking to the law and looking at the court and asking the court, these people are in continuous violation. They've even been fined. But you yourself, after that declaration, violated the law and went ahead to swear in Raila Odinga.
So Ken, you happen to have gone to law school, didn't you? Right? No, I'm asking you a question. You went to law school, right?
I'm listening to you, Miguna.
What law did I break? Tell me which one. Tell me exactly which law. No. Tell me which law, which statute did I break when I swore Raila in? Which law said I couldn't swear him in? Which one? Which section of the Constitution or provision of the Constitution says that I could not swear Raila in?
Is that how presidents are sworn in Kenya? Is that how presidents are sworn in Kenya?
So, no. How many presidents are in Kenya? We have president of the society, right? President of so many organizations.
The head of the executive, Miguna. I'm talking about the head of the executive. Is that how they are sworn in? Because what you purported to do was to swear in Raila as the head of the executive.
You see, now you are diverting attention.
And no, I'm not diverting attention. You asked me a question and I'm responding.
I warned you against this because I knew that this is what you would do. I knew that you would try to get away from Uhuru Kenyatta violating...
No, I'm coming. We all agree he violated your rights and disobeyed court. We agree. We all agree, yes.
You can't answer your own question, and I'm going to answer your question the way I want, not the way you want.
Proceed.
So you better keep quiet when I'm answering your questions.
I will, but don't run away from my question also. Don't run away.
Ken, once you ask me a question, you keep quiet. Otherwise, it is not an interview. I'm not one of those people that you can play around with on this channel.
I believe you're running away from my question by attempting to intimidate me.
If you're not going to interview me, tell me, and I will switch it off.
Let's be civil. Daktari, let's be civil.
Listen.
Let's be civil and begin.
Civil does not mean that I do what you want me to do, even if it is irregular. So listen to me carefully.
Okay, proceed.
All right, listen to me very carefully. There is no law that I broke. That's number one. You cannot cite any law. You cannot simply say that because Uhuru Kenyatta had been sworn in, any swearing in is illegal. That's nonsense, because you would have to cite the law I broke. That's number one. Number two, if I broke a law, so let's assume, for the sake of argument, that you are right. Miguna broke a law and swore Raila in illegally in violation of provision XYZ. What you do, you get a warrant of arrest. You come to Miguna. You serve him with the warrant. You tell him when he should appear in court. He appears in court, you bring your prosecutors, you charge him, and you allow him to defend himself. I will sit there, you will present your case, and I will present mine. I will cross-examine your witnesses. I will test your case, and a court of law will make a decision whether you are right or Miguna is right. Did they do that? No, they didn't. Now, the third point, what has the High Court so far ruled with respect to me swearing Raila in? The High Court, if you forgot, has ruled that there was no illegality in swearing Raila in, which means I did something perfectly legal. That's the High Court. There is no court in Kenya that has ruled that I did anything illegal. In fact, they said I did everything legal. Last point, the person I swore in is the one that had the handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. He was not charged. His house was not bombed. He's running around freely right now. I understand he's in Dubai. So how can you have the audacity to accuse me of swearing somebody in illegally when you have not charged that person? So why are you charging me and not him? Do you understand? And that is how ridiculous your question is, because you have not asked Raila that question. You have never asked him that question, and yet you've had 4 years to do so.
I'll go back to my original question before this question, because the original question that you also ran away from was, why then do you think that they are so determined to get you out of the country and not everyone else was involved in that process? Why Miguna? Why Miguna? That was my original question.
Because Miguna is not Ken. He's not a coward, okay? Miguna is not you. I don't find excuses for despotism the way you do. I am different from Raila Odinga.
Okay.
They know that I will not compromise and I will not be bribed. That's what I told you. It's fear. I led the NRM, okay? And they purported to ban it. Why do you think they banned it? They didn't ban KOTU. They didn't ban Ktn'. They didn't ban the Law Society of Kenya. They didn't ban any other organization in Kenya. They banned the NRM. But what did the court do? The court said you cannot ban the NRM. So the NRM is completely legitimate and legal.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So what I'm saying, my friend, I answered this question, but of course you forgot or you deliberately ignored my answer. I used the word fear. Fear can make you do things that are illogical, that are irrational, that are completely malicious. And that's what Uhuru Kenyatta is doing.
Okay.
He's acting on fear.
Okay. Uhuru Kenyatta, Daktari, with all the machinery that he has as the president, the head of state, fears Miguna.
So what is so difficult to understand there? Why was Tom Mboya assassinated? Because of fear. Why was Dedan Kimathi killed by the British? Because of fear. Why was Pio Gama Pinto assassinated by Kenyatta? Because of fear. Why was Ouko killed by Daniel Arap Moi? Because of fear. Why was Professor Odhiambo Mbai killed? Because of fear. What is so difficult to understand there, Ken?
Okay, so at what point you have completely, as Miguna, refused to recognize President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has served for 4 years? You have said deliberately you will not recognize that presidency.
Is there a legal or constitutional obligation on me to recognize Uhuru Kenyatta?
None.
So why are you asking that question? There is absolutely nothing that requires that I must recognize him. And I will not.
Okay. So
because I have no duty to recognize anybody.
Okay.
He has a duty because, you see, you don't pay me, Ken. He doesn't pay me. I earn my own living. Therefore, I have no responsibility to do anything you want.
Okay.
I am a private citizen just like any other citizen in Kenya. The unemployed, the workers, the students, anybody who is not holding public office.
Okay.
So I will not recognize Uhuru Kenyatta because he's illegitimate.
Okay. With the hindsight of what happened when Raila Odinga was sworn in, Dr. would you do that again if you had another opportunity?
I would do it 1,000,000 times because it is the right thing to do.
Okay.
Listen to me, Ken. I did not do it because I love Raila Odinga or because I like him. In fact, I don't like him. If anybody wins an election, it doesn't matter who it is. So for example, I don't like Wetangula. I don't like him at all. I think he's a big crook. But if Wetangula today wins an election, credibly, I would say amen.
Okay.
It does not matter what the state does. It does not matter what IEBC does. It does not matter what Ken does. I do it because it is good for the rule of law.
Okay.
I do it because it is good for the principle of constitutionalism.
Okay.
I do it because that is what democracy demands. I do it as a man who has integrity.
When you come back to the country, Miguna, and there's an election that is in the offing, and you have an opportunity once again to do it when Raila Odinga wins an election, would you do it?
Why do you ask me a hypothetical question?
Because you have said you can do it again and again.
No. Why shouldn't I be the one not being sworn in?
Okay.
Who says to you that I would not run and that I cannot win? Why do you put the hypothetical, and why is Raila the default winner in your hypothetical? You see how illogical you are.
Okay.
It's quite profound.
The reason why I'm asking.
No. I'm answering.
You have to let me ask the question now, then you answer.
No, you've already asked, and I'm responding to it my way. I'm responding to your question the way I want.
Respond, then I ask you.
I respond the way I want.
Okay.
It is quite profound that in your hypothetical, the only winner is Raila Odinga. And in your hypothetical, the only person to be sworn in is Raila Odinga. You see how biased you are. Why didn't you bring up anybody else? You see what I mean?
I'm about to bring somebody else. I'm about to bring someone else.
The fact that Raila won in 2017 doesn't mean he will win in 2022.
Okay.
That's not how logic works.
Okay. So let me bring the other person. You are quoted in a TV interview with Jeff Koinange a while ago as dismissing the candidature of William Ruto and saying that he is too dangerous and he cannot be president of Kenya. You have just told us you believe in what you say. Do you still hold this point, that he's too dangerous, he can't be president of Kenya?
First of all, and this is a problem I am seeing in the way you are completely all over the map. Do you even know when that interview was done? You say, oh, you are quoted in an interview with Jeff Koinange some time back. When? What was the context of the interview? Don't ask your questions. Don't bring Mr. Koinange here. Koinange is not asking me questions. And you've not played the clip, the entire clip, so that you understand the context. And you're not going to use this interview to make me speak about Ruto, which this interview was not supposed to be about. This was supposed to be about the rule of law. This was supposed to be about how the court orders have been disobeyed. This was about my forced exile. This was squarely about Uhuru Kenyatta. Don't move away to William Ruto. Don't move away to Raila Odinga. Let's deal with the culprit who has violated the constitution and disobeyed the court orders. So I'm not moving to your target. You're not going to make me talk about Ruto.
The same way, Miguna, the same way you will answer the question, the way you want to answer it, is the same way I'm going to ask my questions, the way I want to ask them. So are you going to talk about that?
I'm not going to talk. No.
We can move on to other things. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We have a lot to talk about. So if you don't want to answer, I can move on.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Ken, one thing you will learn about me, right? You can say anything you want about me, but I'm not stupid. Okay? So number one, I'm not going to fall into your trap of diverting attention from what we had agreed we were going to talk about. We discussed this, and I was very clear. I was very clear with your colleague, Sophia Wanuna, and I was very clear with you. I said, focus on the issues. You said you are going to talk about Dr. Willie Mutunga's announcement that he was traveling to Canada so that he could accompany me on my way back. And we were going to be able to talk about the rule of law. I'm not going to be diverted. So for the up-till time, focus on the issues we agreed to talk about today.
I am going to focus
on William Ruto any other day. Today I'm not discussing William Ruto. Today I'm not discussing Wetangula. Today I'm not discussing anybody else. I'm discussing Miguna,
I think
Dr. Willie Mutunga,
yes.
And the trip. My friend, you invited me to come here to talk about specific
And I'm going to talk about it. We still have 40 minutes on the clock, Miguna. Why are you running away?
No.
We're going to talk about it.
I'm not talking about Ruto. I'm not talking about Ruto. You want to divert my attention.
All right, you're not going to talk about Ruto.
You can talk about Ruto all you want, but I'm not going to be diverted to Ruto.
I think you are running away from that obvious question, but it was a build-up to the next question I was going to ask.
Listen to me.
You are running away, Miguna.
Ken.
You're running away from the rule of law because what essentially I'm asking you, Miguna, if you would allow me.
Listen to me carefully, Ken.
If you would allow me, I would listen to you also. If you would allow me. I'm building up to the rule of law and how the government violated your rights. I'm building to that. So if you could just allow me and answer the question, then I will tell you that the same... Yes, Miguna.
Ken, you're not going to get through me.
Okay, good enough. Let's talk about the rule of law. Let's talk about the rule of law and the fact that you are out. 15 times, Miguna, the government has been told to facilitate your return. And the officers who are involved in your, what you say is not deportation, because you can't deport someone without trial, you can't deport a citizen of a country, have even been fined in court. I'm going to read a few of the quotes from the statement that was made by CJ Emeritus, Dr. Willie Mutunga. And I'll just bring them up. But one of the things that he has stated on this is that he has decided to undertake this journey to support and defend the independence of the judiciary, its authority, and the people's confidence in it. That's the first thing the CJ Emeritus said. I'm going to read the other one now. It says, Miguna has a court order that grants him safe passage into the country. Ideally, he should be able to enter and leave the country as he pleases, but that is not the case. I demand the government comply fully with the orders, including the prompt payment of all awards, cost, accruing interest. Justice demands the same. That is the second one. I'm going to read the last one, Miguna, before I open this for you. To date, none of the court, they're yet to expunge any of those contempt proceedings against them. That's the state. They therefore continue to undermine the rule of law and to violate the oath of office they took as state officers. Daktari, who is Willie Mutunga referring to in his statement against the judiciary?
No, Willie Mutunga has not said anything against the judiciary, so I don't understand.
Who is he referring to that have disobeyed the judiciary? That's my question.
I have the statement of Dr. Willie Mutunga in front of me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And there is nowhere where Willie Mutunga has said anything against the judiciary, which is what you say.
No, that's not what I said. I said, who is he referring to who have been violating the orders from the judiciary, Miguna?
But I thought it is in the statement that you just read. In fact, he has actually listed the contemnants. I mean, why are you reading this partially? So anyway, let me focus you on the statement that he made so that I can answer it directly, right?
Yes.
Page 2 of his statement. He has named them. He said the government of Kenya, the government officials, number 1, Dr. Matiang'i, Major Kialangwa, the Director General of Police, who was Joseph Boynet, the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, the officer in charge of the flying squad, Said Kiprotich, the officer commanding police station at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, the Attorney General of Kenya. I mean, he has named them.
Yes.
And these were parties to the proceedings that led to the decisions that he's referring to. Why are you saying you don't know who Dr. Mutunga is referring to?
I didn't say that. When he says the government of Kenya, is he referring to the same person you have been referring to, President Uhuru Kenyatta?
My friend, who is the head of government in Kenya?
He said the government.
Is this not childish?
He said the government.
It's childish to ask me. It's rather childish to ask me, who is the president of Kenya? Who is the head of government? Who is the head of state? Who is the commander-in-chief? Who ordered the people to break into my house? It's Despot Uhuru Kenyatta. What is so difficult there?
So
and I have had people,
yes.
Let me say this.
Yes.
I have heard people claiming that the word despot is an insult. It is not. It's an English word that describes an act by a person like him who disobeys court orders, violates the constitution, tortures, orders people's property to be destroyed, forces citizens to be held from countries, issues illegitimate, illegal red alerts to prevent them from coming in, and then refuses to swear in judges even when they have been appointed and there have been many, many orders. And then his name appears in the Pandora box and he said he was going to release a statement and does not do so. That's a despot.
Dr. Willie Mutunga does not hold any public office. Dr. Willie Mutunga is a very respectable man in the country. I mean, so many positive things can be said about Dr. Willie Mutunga, but this journey he has taken, Miguna, on the 16th of November, do you see hurdles on the way of Dr. Willie Mutunga?
If there were no hurdles, he would not be making the trip. And he has said that himself. You see, he's very capable of speaking for himself. And if you wanted to interview him, you could have. You are interviewing me. So today, I can only give you what I am doing, what this case is about. But okay, so let's go to your question, however misguided it is. Dr. Willie Mutunga happens to be not just a respectable Kenyan, which he is. Dr. Willie Mutunga is an advocate and has been an advocate for more than 50 years. Dr. Willie Mutunga has been a human rights activist. Dr. Willie Mutunga has been a political activist and a former detainee who has gone through some of the things I've gone through. Dr. Willie Mutunga happens to have been the first Chief Justice, head of the judiciary, and president of the Supreme Court of Kenya after the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. That's a very important person in the world.
Yes.
All right? So he's not just like any other person. So when you say he's just like any other person, you are wrong. A former Chief Justice is not like any other person. And when a former Chief Justice decides that I'm going to do this, you better pay attention because the world is paying attention. Okay? So I don't know what your problem is with what Dr. Willie Mutunga has decided to do, because you can do the same. You can also say, Miguna, I'm accompanying Dr. Willie Mutunga to Canada so that we can make the trip, symbolically to show that these court orders have to be obeyed. All right? Remember that in Kenya today, the judiciary remains to be the only institution that is defending the rule of law, that is defending democracy, that is defending the Constitution. All the other organs of state have collapsed under the so-called executive and are just like robots. They are told to jump, they ask how high. Parliament is completely under the control of Uhuru Kenyatta. All the organs of state, the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, that should have done what Dr. Willie Mutunga is doing currently, is not even properly constituted. The commissioners are not there. it's probably left with a skeleton staff of 3 or 5 people. This is a constitutional organ. Then if you go to the police, which is supposed to be independent and was supposed to enforce the court orders that you referred to, you glossed over. For instance, Justice Chacha Mwita, on the 14th of December 2018, said Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Gordon Kihalangwa,
yes,
DC High Kinoti, the Attorney General, and all the others that we went through are not fit to hold public office. If it was in any other country governed by the rule of law, they would have been removed there by force, even if Uhuru decided not to fire them. Which means that today, as I speak with you, Matiang'i is not supposed to hold public office, should not be addressing press conferences, should not be spending any public money because he has been adjudged unfit to hold public office. And so is Kihalangwa. But what happened yesterday? Kihalangwa was appointed to head Kenya Power. And a lot of people, including the so-called activists, were clapping. That tells you how decomposed our society has become. Not only that, Justice Odunga, on the 28th of March, 2018, convicted Fred Matiang'i, Boynet, Kihalangwa, and Kinoti, plus others, and fined them 200,000 shillings each. They have not paid, they have not gone to jail, they are still holding public office. I mean, this is a rogue administration. That's what it is. So what do you expect Dr. Mutunga to do? To accept that? To accept what you have accepted, unfortunately, that this is the order of things, these people are too powerful, nothing can happen to them. Okay. Now, some of us, unfortunately, my friend, for you, fortunately for the country, some of us have decided that it does not matter whether we die in the process, whether we are killed in the process. The most important thing is the rule of law. Okay. Is democracy. Okay. Is constitutionalism. Is obeying court orders. Okay. And we are ready to do everything possible for that to happen.
Miguna, the hurdles that I'm asking you, if you foresee them, is, for example, the same state still controls the entry points. The former CJ will come to Canada and will accompany you to Kenya. But the hurdles such as the ones you experienced at the airport, don't you see these hurdles will still be placed on your way? And how do you plan to deal with these hurdles this time around?
Okay, so let me address your question. The British came to Kenya and occupied it by force, right? And all of you were slaves, at least our grandparents were. Did they accept it because the British had guns and were effectively controlling the country? No. Were some of them killed in the process of fighting the British? Yes. Did they think that they could defeat the British? No. But what did they do? They said it is better that you die on your feet than to die on your knees. What happened in South Africa? The same thing. Apartheid had nuclear weapons. Did Mandela accept it? No. How long did he spend in Robben Islands? 27 years. Did apartheid eventually fall? Yes. How about Hitler? Was he powerful or powerless? Very powerful. Was he ruthless? More ruthless than dictator, more ruthless than dictator Uhuru Kenyatta. Did he fall or not? He did. How about Amin? So don't give me this cowardly question about, oh, there are hurdles in front of you. Of course there are hurdles. If there were no hurdles, there would be no need for a struggle for justice. Okay. If there were no hurdles, I would not be talking with you today. Have I surrendered because of the hurdles? Never, never. I would die on my feet fighting for social justice. Do you get that?
One argument is that just in case there are these hurdles on the way, what happened to you, and honestly, many Kenyans sympathize with you, and what was done to you?
No, we don't want sympathy. I'm not looking for sympathy from you, and I don't want any Kenyans to sympathize.
What happened?
All I'm asking of you,
yes,
and I'm asking of Kenyans, is to stop being cowardly and stop trying to find excuses for atrocities and illegal action by the government, that you should join us in this struggle to liberate the country so that we can all live together in Kenya as equal citizens, where there is no first class, second class, and third class citizens.
Okay.
And by the way, Ken,
yes,
in Kenya today, you are a third class citizen. Don't be deceived. You are more qualified than Matiani, okay? And maybe you do a better job than him. He's holding that position because he's a puppet and because he's favored by someone, not because of merit. So forget about merit. Okay. We want a merit-based society. So there will be hurdles. We will overcome them.
Okay. So
we will overcome them.
The argument is, what happened to you is not government policy. Would it just be easier to wait for President Uhuru Kenyatta to leave in 9 months or so, and then just come back to your country?
So you are saying what is happening to me, what is being done against me is not government policy. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you just said?
I'm saying it's not government policy that can be followed by a successive government. They don't need to do what this government has done to you. So it's not.
So I don't know what you understand by policy, because that question makes nonsense of the word policy. Okay? You, for example, does not know what this government's policy is, if it has policy. I don't think these people govern on policy. They don't govern, they rule with a gun, okay? And you don't know who is going to take after him, so you don't know whether that person will also rule by the gun.
Okay.
And it does not matter whether that person, no, let me answer the question. It does not matter whether the person rules by the gun like Uhuru Kenyatta or not. It should not stop someone from struggling for justice. What I'm trying to tell you, Ken, is that before you became a journalist, I was fighting for social justice. I started fighting for social justice when I was a teenager. And I have done that throughout my life. It will not change because we have a dictator in State House. We struggled against Moi until Moi allowed multipartyism. There was one-party state. I never joined KANU. I never sang KANU Juu. I never sang Tawala Kenya Tawala, even as a teenager, even as a boy. This is me. I have never kowtowed to tyranny. So I think that is what you don't get, that this is a different kind of human being who does not operate from the same mediocre principles that some people do. That I believe that everybody is entitled to social justice.
Okay.
And I am going to die fighting for that.
Okay.
If it happens in my lifetime that we have it, so much the better.
Okay.
So if it happens that it does not happen in my lifetime, so be it. History will record that there once lived a man called Miguna. He fought for social justice.
Okay.
I will be satisfied.
So, Daktari, this is, I get it, this is about social justice. It's not even about Miguna as a person. It's about social justice, and that's the reason why even the former CJ is taking this up.
Listen, as I said before, number one, you can talk to him, and he's already spoken to this issue anyway. He has said it. He has said there are two reasons why he's taking this up, right? He said it in his statement. He said first, it is because of the continued flagrant and reprehensible defiance of the government of Kenya, its agencies and senior officials against the numerous valid court orders in favor of Miguna. Two, I have decided to undertake this journey to support and defend the independence of the judiciary, its authority, and the people's confidence in it. He gave 2 reasons.
Yes.
Now, so a struggle for justice cannot be about a person.
Okay.
A person is a victim, one person. But this thing could happen to you. And it is happening to a lot of Kenyans. But remember, Ken, thousands of people were killed after the elections in 2017. Thousands were killed in 2013. Thousands were killed in 2017, 2007, 2008. A lot of Kenyans have died between 2018, when I was abducted from my house, up to now. In fact, there were more than 5 people shot dead on the day I was abducted in Kisumu. So this cannot be about just Miguna. This is about the rule of law. This is what I've said.
Okay.
But it concretizes, it finds symbolism in injustice being done to one man. And this has always been the case.
Okay.
Look at the Arab Spring. It started in Tunisia with a young man burning himself in public because of the atrocities happening around him, and nothing was happening. It has to be triggered. It has to find symbolism in something that is so outrageously unjust.
Okay.
But you can't reduce it to that. And honestly, I'm surprised that you don't think that injustice is all around you.
That was not my point, but well said, Daktari. I want to end this topic, and you are Kenyan. There are a lot of Kenyans online who are asking me to ask you questions about what's happening in Kenya currently, and you'll just have to allow me the last 5 minutes to ask about that. Just your view as Kenyan, the same way you commented on the judiciary, because you are Kenyan at the end of the day. But I want to end this by asking you, Daktari, are you confident that this time round you will be home with your people?
Ken, I think that is an unfair question. It's not about confidence, because in the end, I don't control the ones with the guns. I will continue to assert my rights. I will continue to demand that justice must be done. I will continue to demand that the court orders must be obeyed. I must continue to say, I'm a Kenyan. The court has said as much. I didn't even need the courts to say so, but the courts did. And I'm returning to Kenya. I wanted to raise some issue that I told you I was going to raise.
Yes.
You know, a lot of Kenyans are not talking about some of these things, but we have to. Look at the budget of Kenya. The budget of Kenya is over 1.7 trillion Kenya shillings, correct? Out of that budget, the judiciary gets less than 20 billion, okay? And even that has been reduced in the past. Between 2014 to 2019, in 2014, the judiciary's budget was 17.8 billion. In 2019, it was reduced to 17.7 billion. What happened to the budget of Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency? It was increased by 152%. What happened to the National Intelligence Service? The budget was increased by 115%. How about Parliament? 55%. Now, if we want to be critical, tell me, put the judiciary on one side and put these institutions on the other. What benefit does the ordinary citizen get from the presidency? Zero. All we know is Uhuru Kenyatta takes a plane to New York, then he goes to Dubai, then he goes to other countries. Zero benefit. Now, how much benefit do we get from the National Intelligence Service? Zero. What is the benefit that Kenyans get from Parliament? Zero. They don't even bring the state, the national executive to account. The police kill Kenyans more than it protects Kenyans. So, and yet nobody is talking about the fact that the judiciary, being the only organ of state that administers justice, the third arm of government, is being strangulated. The budget is being squeezed out. It dies the death of attrition. This is important because a country is only as developed as its ability to treat the most vulnerable in a respectable, humane way. And Kenya does not do that. How about any other levers of state? So my point is this, my friend. The discussion has to be squarely on the rule of law.
Okay.
And you cannot have a rule of law when the judiciary is being starved of funding, the court orders are being disobeyed, and judges are not being appointed. Therefore, Kenyans who go to court cannot have their cases heard on time, because justice delayed is justice denied.
Okay, that summarizes that. But the relationship between the judiciary and the executive, this is very important, and I want your indulgence in this. If you look at the successor of the former Chief Justice David Maraga, Martha Koome, she came into a platform of change and things will be done differently at the judiciary. And one of the things that she said was that she has the ability to talk, to sit on the table and talk. Is this one of the ways you believe, as an officer of the court, that we can finally break this stalemate between the executive and the judiciary?
No, wrong. 100% wrong. If that's what she thinks is going to change anything, she's 100% wrong. The relationship, the judiciary has not picked up a war with the executive. The executive picked up a war with the judiciary because the executive wants to control the judiciary. That's why they wanted to introduce the ombudsman through the BBI fraud. The judiciary must assert itself and say, we are not going to beg for what is rightfully ours, which is our budget. We are not going to budge on the issue of obeying court orders. We are not going to cede administrative, jurisdictional, jurisprudential territory. Like, its sphere of control cannot be encroached by the presidency or the executive arm. There are three clear arms: interdependent, but cooperate only when it is necessary. For instance, the judiciary determines matters in court. Once the judiciary issues court orders or judgments, the executive must enforce it. There should be no argument. You don't argue, you don't negotiate, you don't bribe, you don't coerce, and you don't beg. Here, where I am, and I'm talking from my office, I get a court order, it's enforced within 30 days, I don't have to say anything. And if it is not done, I go to court and that person is locked up, no questions asked. So that's the way it's supposed to be. Somebody should not be telling you that you have to respect the president. Respect is not constitutional. Respect is earned, and it has nothing to do with the law. So if somebody wants respect, they must behave in a manner that will bring respect to them. It cannot be commanded.
Daktari, I have a minute or 2 minutes. And my final question to you is, Kenya is going to an election next year. I want you to look into that election, and Kenyans who are watching you tonight, what must they look out for, or what must they look at when they're going for the election in the next year that will develop this country and get this country from where we are currently?
First of all, there is going to be no election next year. It's going to be a coronation exercise. It's not an election. You cannot have an election when the Electoral Commission is not independent. You cannot have a fair, credible, and transparent and accountable election when the National Intelligence Service is the one that determines who the winner is. You cannot have an election, an effective election, when those who are supposed to superintend over it, for example, the CS for ICT has already said they are supporting Raila Odinga, and he's supposed to be responsible for the transmission of results. The CS for Interior, who is supposed to be in charge of the police, who are supposed to ensure that there is peace and stability and order, and that everybody is treated equally, has already taken sides, that he's supporting Raila Odinga. You cannot have a credible election. So therefore, next year, there will be no credible election. One person will be declared president. Other people will be declared losers. The ones who are declared losers will not accept the results, whoever they are, and there will be trouble next year.
Okay.
And people will have to take their decision accordingly.
Okay.
So I will not sugarcoat it. I will not tell you how peaceful elections will be. I will not tell you how orderly they will be. I will not tell you how credible they will be. They will not be credible.
Okay.
So whether Ruto, Raila, Miguna, Mijungu, whoever they are, is declared a winner would be of no consequence to me.
Okay.
So what we have to fight for is to have a credible electoral infrastructure and institution. We don't have one. Number two, we must overhaul our governance system so that the country is governed in accordance with the rule of law, so that people know that if you have a 5-term period to serve, you serve the country. When that term ends, you go home.
Okay. Daktari, asante sana. Thank you for coming to our show tonight and speaking to us. Looking forward to the 16th, and let's see what happens. Before we end the show tonight,